You know, this is what I have noticed with a lot of my Spanish students. Like, I go, hola, ¿cómo estás? And they go, muy bien, ¿y tú? And then they don't know what to say next. Um, so that's the reason why I want to cover today, like some words or phrases that you can put between the conversation so you can keep the conversation going, um, and you don't get stuck just thinking without saying anything. Um, if I ask you, ¿Cómo estás? All right. So probably you're going to say bien y tú. That comes automatically. But also, that's a good question, right? ¿Cómo estás? Eso es una buena pregunta. And that's something that you could say while you're thinking, like, oh, okay, ¿cómo estás? Or you could say in Spanish, like, oh, esto es una buena pregunta, right? Una buena pregunta is one of those phrases that you could put like in the middle of a conversation to keep the conversation going. ¿Cómo estás? How you doing? How are you? You could say muy bien, but as well, huh, muy buena pregunta. Estoy bien. So that actually makes the conversation to sound more natural. All right. And those are sentences or words that you can put in the middle, like fillers, to keep the conversation going. Let's say that you're talking with someone, you're talking to someone, and then the conversation gets heat up, all right? And the question that they're asking you is probably a little bit hard, all right? So that word that you're looking for, it just doesn't come out, all right? Because you're deeply thinking about what you're gonna say next. So then you could say things like, déjame pensar un momento. Like, let me think for a moment. Déjame pensar un momento. Eso es todo lo que tú necesitas. Like, that's all you need. Un momento to process your thoughts and just putting it out there, right? So, déjame pensar un momento. So you better learn that one. Déjame pensar un momento. Now, déjame pensar un momento. Déjame pensar qué frase o qué palabra puedo decir próximamente. So let's say that that word, that palabra, all right, that you were told or you were talked to, um, so had some impression or caused some impression on you that you never thought about it. All right. So then you can say this like, oh, nunca lo había pensado. I never thought about that. I have never thought about that because it's shocking. Right. Cosas como LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Oh, nunca lo había pensado. Shocking. But if that person is mumbling, just like happens to me from time to time, so I mumble a little bit, you can tell them like, hey, ¿puedes repetir eso? Can you repeat that one more time? In this case, that's the example that I have. ¿Puedes repetir eso, por favor? So, and that's a way where you can say, can you repeat that, please? And again, so that's something that is going to keep the conversation going. Wow. Can you repeat that, please? ¿Puedes repetir eso, por favor? I like this phrase actually. Because usually in English, we would say, like, say what? So you say what? And, you know. So I don't know how polite that's. I don't think that's very polite. So, ¿puedes repetir eso? Can you repeat that, please? Sounds way better. Now, not every answer or response from your behalf needs to be deeply, right? Articulated. So you can just use phrases, or you can just use regular fillers. That's going to keep the conversation going. Here I have some fillers that we can use. For example, we can use fillers like claro, which means of course, exacto, which is exactly. I remember I used to use exacto a lot. Exacto can be used in the middle. For example, if someone says, el jugo de naranja es malo, and you actually agree with it, so then you can say exacto. So in English, that would sound like orange juice is bad, or it's nasty. So then you can say exactly, and you're kind of agreeing and you're keeping the conversation going. So that's something that you can do. All right. So use this type of fillers. Exacto is a very good example. Another example would be interesante. Oh, el jugo de naranja es malo. Ah, interesante. Eso tiene sentido. That makes sense. So let me tell you something about this one specifically. I really like the way we say in Spanish, eso tiene sentido. Because it's like, it has sense. This has sense. We don't, that's the way it sounds in Spanish, using the verb tener, which is to have there. That's the way that we say in Spanish. Eso tiene sentido. That makes sense. And that's another sentence that you can use in the middle of a conversation to keep the conversation going. And another one is like, okay, entiendo. El jugo de naranja es malo. Oh, okay, entiendo. Entiendo. That's just in case if you agree with it, all right? So, because you can say also things like, no entiendo, like, I don't understand why. No entiendo por qué dices que el jugo de naranja es malo. I don't understand why you say that orange juice is bad. But that's a funny one. That's eso suena muy divertido. En realidad me gusta mucho. The orange juice is bad. Okay, okay. And again, so these tips are gonna help you out to keep the conversation going. Another thing that you can do when you're talking with someone is actually shift the responsibility to other people. So you can do things like asking questions, obviously, to shift the responsibility to this person. So you can ask them questions like, ¿y tú qué piensas? Like, what do you think about this? Another useful one would be, ¿y cómo estuvo eso? How was that? If they're talking to you about their family, or a friend, which is very interesting what you guys are talking about, tú les puedes preguntar, you can ask them, ¿qué pasó después? All right. ¿Qué pasó después? Like, what happened next? Dime más. Tell me more. All right. ¿Qué pasó después? And if what they're telling you is very shocked, all right, you can ask them questions like, ¿por qué crees eso? Okay, let me give you an example. Okay. Elon Musk es el hombre más rico del mundo. Why do you think that? That's a very good one. ¿Por qué crees eso? And this one you can just use it and use it whenever someone is giving you their opinion, and they have like a strong conviction on what they're saying. So in that way they can elaborate more. And again, so you can shift the responsibility a esa persona, to that person. Another set of phrases that we actually use in Spanish a lot, like to keep the conversation going, would be things like, qué loco or qué locura to say that's crazy. Por ejemplo, a mi hermano Danny no le gustan los burritos. Huh, eso es una locura. Qué loco. Like, that's crazy, right? ¿Por qué no le gustan los burritos? Why he doesn't like the Mexican food? Qué locura. Qué loco. We also say qué locura to say that's crazy. That's craziness. But qué loco is as useful as qué locura. Qué loco. Huh. Another one would be, ¿que no te gustan los burritos, Danny? No me digas. Like, don't tell me that. And even though that might come up like a little bit rude, it might sound like a little bit rude in Spanish. So the way that I can see like, don't tell me that, or don't tell me, it'll be like if you were saying English, like, shut up, like in that joking or kind of joking around manner or way. So that's the way we use it. No me digas eso. Like, shut up. What? ¿Por qué no te gustan los burritos? Like, ¿por qué no te gustan los burritos? Like, shut up. Why you don't like burritos, man? Um, that's a funny one. Okay. This one. Uh, let's say that you you're talking to Danny, all right? And Danny, he doesn't like burritos, all right? And then so he actually you don't know yet, so you don't know if he likes burritos or not, but he tells you that he doesn't like burritos. All right. So then you could say something like, that's because you are Dominicano, you are Dominican and not Mexican. So imagine that. So that's like a sarcastic way to say, like, picture that. So I know that the reason why you don't like burritos is because you are Dominicano instead of Mexicano. Mexicanos are the ones who like burritos. Like, even though that doesn't have too much to do with it, like where you're from or something. But so that's like a kind of a joke. That's some sort of humoristic phrase that you can use just to make this obvious. Like that implies then, like, that right there is trying to make this obvious. That's what this phrase is like. Or obviously, which is obviamente, can be used in the same context. Imagínate. So I might need to go over like a whole video on explaining imagínate in the way that we Hispanic people use it. All right. I really like this other one too, which is Es de película. Wow, that's a movie. Let's say that someone was wheeling on the road, driving fast on the road, and then is your friend telling you this crazy happening that actually happened um, a couple of weeks or days ago. So then you can say things. That's like a movie, all right? So eso es de película. Or es de película. Eso es de película. So that's one of those phrases that we use a lot. Also in Spanish, es de película. And the artists, they use that a lot. Like, es de película. Very useful phrase. Very useful phrase. Es de película. Es de película. And again, so these are words that you can use to keep the conversation going. As you, the more you practice, the more you're gonna realize on how to, like, put it into your vocabulary and your repertorio, your repertorium. You'll see what I'm talking about as you hear more conversations or you start using it. So you're gonna realize how eso se puede convertir en second nature. It may become second nature to you. Again, so let's review the phrases now. So it was qué loco, no me digas, imagínate, es de película. Wow, es de película que tenemos ya tantos minutos hablando.